is an intensivist and pulmonologist, serving as the medical director of critical care and neurocritical care at Central DuPage Hospital in Winfield, Illinois. He was graduated from Notre Dame in 1979, and then from Loyola Stritch School of Medicine in 82. He and I did our internal medicine residencies together at Loyola. He stayed on and did a pulmonary fellowship. I stayed on and did an infectious disease fellowship. And he's been pursuing practice for the past 25 years or more. And I've gone on to other things. After I returned to Notre Dame in 1997, he was one of the first people to kind of call and say, hey, if you ever need somebody to come and talk to your Introduction to Clinical Ethics class, I'd be happy to do that, and to talk about what it's like to work in an intensive care unit, what kinds of ethical issues come up in an intensive care setting. And so pretty much every semester since 1998, he has driven in to talk to our students about ethical issues arising in that context, in that environment. And I'm sure our students have appreciated the down-to-earth, real-life stories from practice, and they get a break from listening to me as well. So he has a wealth of experience, great wisdom to share, and so I'm honored today to have a very good friend, Dr. Jeffrey Huml, address our graduates.
Thank you, Father Foster. Let me begin by telling you truly what an honor it is to be here today to celebrate with you and your families. Before I talk about you, and this day really is all about you, I'd like to share a few things about myself so that you understand what I'm about to tell you is truly coming from the heart and is sincere. As Father Foster mentioned, I'm a 1979 graduate of the university, and I truly feel that my academic experience here was the most rigorous academic experience of my life. Medical school was nothing compared to Notre Dame. Over the years, my appreciation for my time here has deepened. And many of the decisions I now make, both personally and professionally, are solidly rooted in the lessons I learned here. My wife and I were very fortunate to send 2 of our 3 children here. Catherine, a 2007 graduate, is currently a second-year medical resident at Loyola. And Colleen, a 2010 graduate, is currently finishing a Master's of Science in Global Health here at Notre Dame, and is currently doing research in Africa on women's health. And she is truly doing God's work. Our youngest child, Anne-Marie, was born with a very rare chromosome disorder. We had her in our lives for 18 years, 6 months, and 9 days. In 2009, we elected to remove her from life support in the pediatric intensive care unit and allow her to die at home in our arms, surrounded by love. Anne-Marie was unable to walk, feed herself, or talk, but yet could communicate effectively with her eyes. In fact, a dear friend once said that when you looked into the eyes of Anne-Marie, you saw the soul of God. I often wonder, who was it who had special needs? Was it Anne-Marie, or is it us? And Anne-Marie taught us as a family that it is merely enough to love. Years ago, we began a scholarship here at Notre Dame in Anne-Marie's honor, and there is someone here today who has accessed those funds to help pay for her education. And I can't think of a more deserving person to honor Anne-Marie. I have been a practicing physician for the past 30 years, and 2 years ago I found myself at a crossroads. I decided to leave a successful private practice to start an intensivist program, which meant building from the ground up a program which provided 24/7 coverage in our intensive care unit, placing a board-certified critical care physician at the bedside of critically ill patients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The rigor of my academic experience here at Notre Dame, as well as my medical training, made me feel very much at ease to take this leap of faith and essentially start a new career path. My colleagues have all been selected by me, not only because of their clinical excellence, but also because of their intrinsic goodness as human beings. And that combination of clinical excellence and intrinsic goodness is incredibly powerful. If my colleagues were here today, I would tell them that they are, in fact, my heroes. I wish you could witness the good that they do each and every day. As critical care physicians, we often deal with patients at the end of life. I tell my intensivists that there are 1,000 life years of experience crammed into 1 week in our intensive care unit. How fortunate and privileged we are to be witness to the human condition and care for patients as they deal with these elemental issues. It makes us acutely aware that good health is just a temporary state of being. Now that I've told you a little bit about myself, let me talk to you about what my wife, Mary Ann, and I tell our 3 children what the 3 most important gifts in life are: faith, family, and education. Faith is the unwavering belief that there is a higher power watching over us with a plan for us. Faith is what grounds us and strengthens us when the events in our life no longer make sense. It allows us to endure incomprehensible hardship and loss without compromising the ability to celebrate life. Never lose your faith, as it will sustain you in your greatest hours of need. Family. There are many circles of family in our lives. You all have your family of friends that you have nurtured here at Notre Dame these past 4 years. The Notre Dame family is alive and well and will be a lifeline of support as you leave this sacred place. But I want to spend a few moments and talk about your family. A wise man once said that as a parent, you are only as happy as your unhappiest child. And all you parents in the audience know exactly what that means. You would not have been able to matriculate to this university or survive 4 years of rigorous academics without the constant sacrifice, love, and prayers of your parents or parental figures. And kids, I want you to do something for me now. I want you to stand up, turn around, catch your mom's and dad's eye, and say thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
This is an interactive session. Thank you.
Okay.
Did y'all find everybody? As you face adversity and challenges in the future, your number 1 source of support will be your family. And then finally, education. The real reason we're here today. How fortunate we all have been to receive an education from this great university named after the mother of Jesus. And this reminds me of a story that Lou Holtz tells on occasion. And if you know Lou, he is a great storyteller. And many of you may have heard this story before, but it does bear repeating. It was the Friday before a big game, and after the press conference, the chaplain for the opposing team, who was a Catholic priest, came up to Lou and he said, "You know, Coach, God doesn't really care who wins the game tomorrow." And Lou reflected for a moment, and he said, "Father, I have no doubt that God does not care who wins the game tomorrow, but his mother does." You have received an education rigorous in the sciences and humanities, but just as rigorous in values and ethics. And because of your values and ethics, you will look at problems differently and you will look at solutions differently. And it's okay to be different. As leaders in medicine, and every physician, by virtue of their 9+ years of postgraduate education, is in fact a leader, every decision you make needs to be guided by those values and ethics. And that is the burden of a Notre Dame education. And that is what just might make us different from the rest of the world. Father Soren, who founded this university, asks of us that we simply be a force for good. In order to do that, we must constantly challenge ourselves to make a difference in the lives of others. And this is not always easy. It requires extending ourselves and our talents, and this makes us vulnerable to rejection, heartache, and fear. But also opens the doors to incredible amounts of joy. I challenge you to take this risk, make a difference in the lives of others. I am confident that God has a plan for each and every one of you. But I can tell you from personal experience that God's plan is not necessarily your plan. And that's where the tension lies. Cardinal Bernardine, in his book, The Gift of Peace, says, and I quote, "When the hand of God's purpose enters my life, it is not usually from the front, as I always suspected, but from the side in murmurs and whispers that not only surprise but soon empty me beyond anything I could imagine." As you face the uncertainties and challenges of the future, it is my hope and prayer that you leverage these incredible strengths of faith, family, and your Notre Dame education to be a force for good and to make a difference in the lives of others. It has truly been a privilege to be here today to celebrate with you and your family. Thank you very much.